things are starting to finally look up for the Philadelphia Phillies. They got a huge series win against a very, very good Chicago Cubs team. They won that ball game, the series finale, Wednesday afternoon, 7-2 against the Chicago Cubs. Won the series 2-1. It was their first series that the Phillies have won since the Braves series back on May 27th through May 29th. Obviously, a lot of losing recently, so it's great to see the Phillies get back on track with a series win, with a big series win against a very good team. Alec Boehm had a great day at the plate. He had 4 RBIs against the Cubs in the series finale Wednesday afternoon, including a solo home run in the 7th inning. So great job by Alec Boehm there. Great job by the Phillies. So with that, welcome into Phillies Daily, everybody. I'm your host, Mike Hennelly. Make sure you guys subscribe for more Phillies content. Now, obviously, there hasn't been a lot of winning going on for the Phillies for the past couple weeks. We all know it. We've all watched it. We've all listened to it. We've all heard about it. We've all talked about it. They haven't been hitting for power, just really no extra base hits, not producing with runners in scoring position, which is why Wednesday afternoon against the Cubs in that 7-2 win, it was great to see the Phillies found a way to get some runs across, found a way to get things going, to spark the offense, spark the team right there to kick off the game in the bottom of the first inning. Trey Turner, he had a single to start that bottom of the first inning for the Phillies. Right after that, Kyle Schwarber, he walked. So first and second, no outs to start off the Phillies half of the first inning. And then, all of a sudden, with that lack of power, with those lack of extra base hits, with the lack of hitting with runners in scoring position for the Phillies recently, Trey Turner and Kyle Schwarber took it into their own hands. They had a double steal. Turner stole third, safe. Schwarber stole second, safe. So they're using their speed. Obviously, more so Turner getting a third, then Schwarber going to second, using the speed to make things happen, to find a way to score a run, to find a way to put your team, your offense, in good positions to score, to make pitchers, have to work harder. So, right after that, Alec Boehm hit a chopper to third base. It was good enough for Trey Turner to score there to give the Phillies an early 1-0 lead. Now, ironically, I did say that they had a lack of power, lack of run production in these past couple of weeks. But in Wednesday afternoon's ballgame against the Cubs, the Phillies, they were looking a lot like they did before all this losing happened. They had 10 hits, I believe, to finish the game. Of those 10 hits, 5 were extra base hits, including 2 home runs, 2 doubles, and 1 triple by Nick Castellanos, who was just inches shy, maybe even just an inch or less than an inch shy of a home run himself. So it was just a great way to see the Phillies push across a run there to start the game, finding other ways to do that other than using their power, which hasn't been there for them for the most part in these last few weeks. Not only did they score that first run, but the Phillies also had a very, very good first inning. Great to see, getting out on top of the Cubs right away and making them play from behind, especially playing at Citizens Bank Park in front of your home fans. It's just great to have a lead. It just helps the team, the offense, the starting pitching, the defense, the bullpen all settle in, settle down, and just play with the lead, obviously. So, after Trey Turner scored there to make it 1-0 Phillies, Max Kepler, he had an RBI double, made it 2-0 Phillies. JT Realmuto had an RBI single to give the Phillies a 3-0 lead heading into the second inning. So obviously 3 runs in 1 inning in the first inning to start off a game. Just great stuff by an offense, great stuff by the Phillies, and even more importantly, gave Jesus Lazardo, the starting pitcher in Wednesday afternoon's ball game, they gave him 3 runs to work with to start off with. Obviously, Jesus Lazardo had been struggling in his 2 starts prior to Wednesday afternoon's ball game. He allowed 21 hits and 20 earned runs combined in those previous 2 starts after being an NL Cy Young candidate and NL Cy Young frontrunner up until those 2 starts. Now he's obviously out of the picture because of those 20 earned runs and 21 hits he allowed in those 2 ball games. But Jesus Lazardo got to work with an early lead, got to settle in quicker, got to have less pressure almost, and feel just more comfortable having that lead and not having to necessarily be perfect for the Phillies. Not only did they score 3 runs in the first inning, but Kyle Schwarber, the Schwarbarian, hit another Schwar bomb in the third inning. It was a solo home run, his 21st home run of 2025. Gave the Phillies an early 4-0 lead. And then Alec Boehm, like I said earlier, had a tremendous day at the plate with those 4 RBIs in the home run in the 7th inning. Alec Boehm hit a 2 RBI single in that 4th inning, gave the Phillies a 6-1 lead at the time. So obviously gave Jesus Lazardo a 6-1 lead to work with. And that's really all he needed, because Jesus Lazardo looked like the dominant Jesus Lazardo that we saw for much of the 2025 season before he had those 2 outlier-ish starts, those 2 extremely rough outings in his previous 2 starts. Jesus Lazardo looked like he was back against the Cubs Wednesday afternoon. Put those 2 forgettable starts in the past, which is great to see, and he bounced back in a tremendous way. He went 6 strong innings against the Cubs, allowed 5 hits, and most importantly, 0 walks. He struggled with command while he was having those 2 rough outings. And obviously, you don't like to give batters, hitters, free passes if you're any pitcher. But especially trying to get back in the groove, get back on track, it was great that Jesus Lazardo had 0 walks in those 6 innings. And he only allowed 1 earned run compared to 20 earned runs that he allowed combined in those previous 2 starts. And 10 strikeouts in those 6 innings. So Jesus Lazardo, great stuff by him. Like I said, looked dominant, looked just like he looked just like how he played, how he pitched prior to those 2 rough outings. And hopefully it's a sign of good things to come that Jesus Lazardo is back to being a ace, back to being a Cy Young candidate. Unfortunately, it's going to take some work to get back to that Cy Young candidacy to be, in the conversation at the end of the year, just because of those 2 rough outings, because they really plummeted his odds. But if he can get back to how he was pitching before those 2 starts and continue to build off of what he did Wednesday against the Cubs, then the Phillies starting rotation is just still right up there with the best of them and back on track after a little bit of kind of struggles here and there while this losing skid has been going on. Just great stuff to see. Now, obviously, shifting gears a little bit, the July 31st trade deadline is approaching. We're about a month and a half away from that. The Phillies are not perfect, as we've seen during these last couple of weeks, as we've seen really all season long, particularly with the bullpen, particularly in the outfield, mostly in that left field platoon situation, still in center field as well, just because Johan Rojas has cooled off at the plate after a pretty impressive start at the plate to 2025. Just center and left, not really getting the production that you would like to see out of those players. There could be someone that the Phillies could look into as we get closer to this July 31st trade deadline, and that is Los Angeles Angels left fielder Taylor Ward. Now, the Angels entering Wednesday, they were 32 and 34. And that was good for 3rd in the American League West. Obviously, just under 500, but still right around that 500 mark, which is where you want to try to be, if not better, to be a playoff caliber team. They were just 4 games back of first place in the American League West behind the first place Houston Astros. And they were just 3 games out of the wild card spot entering Wednesday. So they're still right there in playoff contention. But as the next month and a half unfolds, if the Angels start to fall out of the playoff race, they could be sellers at the trade deadline, and Taylor Ward could be a guy that could interest outfield needy teams like the Phillies. He's a little bit older. He's 31 years old. He is mainly a left fielder. That's where he's been being utilized with the Angels in 2025 so far, but he can play all 3 outfield positions. particularly left field and right field, obviously mostly in left this year. He's an above-average fielder. He's very good out there with his glove. He's a right-handed hitter, which is different than what the Phillies have right now out there in left field. Max Kepler, he's a left-handed hitter. Brandon Marsh plays out there every once in a while. He's a left-handed hitter. And the outfield, like I said, is a weakness in 2025. So maybe having a right-handed hitter, right-handed option other than Weston Wilson out there in left field could help the Phillies lineup, could help the Phillies platoon situation there. Now, Taylor Ward is known to be a streaky hitter throughout his major league career, and he's batting just .206 in 2025 entering Wednesday. However, he did have a huge month of May. He had 7 doubles, 1 triple, 10 home runs, and 28 RBIs during the month of May. So the power was showcased there. He does have pop in his bat. You can see that throughout his career, especially in the last few years. He's had a couple of 20-plus home run seasons. He's now up to, or he has 18 home runs so far in 2025. So he's well on track to have another 20-plus home run season. Could even hit 30 home runs or more. We'll see how that unfolds. Taylor Ward has 1 more year left of club control, so he's not going to be a free agent until 2027. So if the Phillies were to trade for him, they would be having him, or would have club control with him for next season as well. So it wouldn't necessarily just be a 1-year rental. He could be here, especially with Max Kepler. He's only signed to a 1-year deal in 2025, and then Taylor Ward can still slide in there for next year if the Phillies were to trade for him. It might increase his trade value just because of that extra year of club control. So the Phillies might have to part with a little bit more prospects, a little bit more assets than they would like. But if they feel like they need an upgrade in left field, they feel like they need a different approach, a different addition to the platoon out there, a right-handed bat out there in left field to go with Max Kepler, who's a left-handed hitter, obviously, who has pop in his bat. Taylor Ward could be an option. So keep an eye on that situation as we near the July 31st trade deadline. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Phillies Daily. I'm your host, Mike Kennelly. Make sure you guys like, comment, share, and subscribe for more Phillies content. Great series win by the Phillies against the Cubs. Huge series win. Hopefully they keep that going against the Toronto Blue Jays over the weekend. Thank you guys for watching. And as always, go Phils.